So I was curious about the movie The Shift, mostly because I love Neil McDonough's style of acting, and I've actually met him a couple of times. He's a really nice guy. If you don't know anything about this movie going in, it will surprise you as it did me. And yes, I know Angel Studios and the kinds of movies they make. At the end of this review, I'll give you my score out of 10, so stick around for that.
That's exciting.
So it was the trailer of The Shift that made me kind of curious to see what this movie was really all about. It had a dystopian theme and a kind of multiverse concept that, when put together with Neil McDonough, made me think that it's worth a try. Besides, Samwise Gamgee is in this as well, so who doesn't like a little Sam and Frodo in their afternoon? The first 15 minutes of this movie were just excellent. It starts with the main character, Kevin Garner, meeting his wife, Molly Garner, at the bar for the first time. She sits beside Kevin, who just lost his job after being fired from Bear Stearns during the Great Recession. And this is where the shift surprises you at first. The dialogue in this scene was actually quite beautifully written. In fact, I was beginning to doze off before the movie started, sitting in the theater with like one other guy watching movie trailers. But this scene totally grabbed me. It was so well done, and I thought that this movie was going to be a major surprise to the upside. Then we see a few years into the future. Kevin and Molly are married and having issues as their son has died or has disappeared. So next we see Kevin Garner on his phone in his car, right before getting T-boned by a truck, and from there, everything changes. We see Kevin Garner sitting on an empty street. It's nighttime, with more than enough clues that everything is not as it was. You know something has changed, but of course, you're not sure what to read into it just yet. Enter Neil McDonough, the Benefactor. He seems concerned and helps Kevin to his feet.
I don't trust him.
The next scene is, for the most part, pretty good as well, with Neil McDonough and the protagonist Kevin at a table in a restaurant. Everyone looks noticeably scared of the Benefactor, suggesting that this guy isn't what he seems to be. At this point, the movie still has my full attention. It feels like this is going somewhere with a tight storyline and a mind-tingling science fiction dystopian kind of edge. Until we get to a gadget the Benefactor has on his wrist, and things literally go downhill faster than the East German bobsled team. From here on, the shift nosedives into a cheesy B movie with each passing minute. I'm almost in shock trying to figure out what I'm watching now. How could the first 15 minutes feel so real and authentic, only to have everything fly apart and turn into complete and utter crap? I'll tell you why. This is where they became more concerned with their message than their actual story. So the Benefactor is in reality the devil who manipulates lives by shifting them through alternate realities. Every version of Kevin from other realities has agreed to the Benefactor's terms to be a shifter, a kind of multiverse secret agent who works on his behalf. But this particular Kevin is different from all the other Kevins. This one won't agree with the Benefactor's terms. He doesn't want any other version of his life, just the one where he fell in love with his wife Molly and being reunited with their son. So rather than give in to the devil, he prays to God. And this is where things really go upside down. For those who love faith-based movies, you most likely won't agree with my take, or you'll agree partway and make an argument why The Shift is still a good movie. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not. It's just bad filmmaking. This is, in essence, the Christian version of the multiverse. So, of course, Kevin praying to God makes the Benefactor furious. Instead of returning Kevin to his reality, he leaves him stranded in a twisted dystopian world with no hope. Well, there is actually one thing he can't take away from Kevin. It's his faith that God will save him from all of this evil. From this point on, the movie treats you to some of the worst world building imaginable. It's just a mishmash of scenes that are slapped together to try and form some semblance of a dystopian world that is governed by some kind of autocratic government with a police force that wears eggs on their heads instead of helmets. And if that isn't bad enough, Samwise Gamgee shows up, who is taking typed pages of scripture from Kevin. Basically, it's any verses he can remember from the Bible. Every few days, he delivers them to Samwise for a reason that we're never really told. After a bevy of other faith-driven scenes that only confuse and muddy the plot and storyline of the movie, if they ever set out to actually have a coherent storyline, we find out that Samwise Gamgee is actually working for the Benefactor, the devil. It's true. He's one of the bad guys, and it's about as believable as flying giraffes.
It's a giraffe!
The reality is, this Christian multiverse excuse for a movie is nothing more than a writer's attempt to saturate 2 hours with as much religious preaching as it can. They didn't need anywhere near this kind of over-the-top preaching to convince the viewer that this was a devil versus God movie, and that faith was at the center of the protagonist's arsenal of weapons. The movie tries so hard to manufacture sympathy for Kevin that you end up just not giving a damn. You can force an audience to like your main character by putting him through situations that exist only to show how much he believes in God and that his faith will never waver. Alright, I got that from the first scene when I saw him pray in front of the devil. For almost 2 hours, you were so exhausted by the preachy nature of this movie that you just want it to be over. Especially after the first 15 minutes seemed to be such a great promise for this movie. The ending does deliver somewhat of a touching scene with him being reunited with Molly, but it's a different Molly in a different reality, making you feel as if he's just living in a dream, kind of like a Inception moment where you're not sure if the top keeps spinning or not. Neil McDonough is the only highlight in this movie, and is the only one who makes any of this dull reality believable. Samwise Gamgee was completely out of place as a faithful follower of the devil. Give him big furry feet and pointy ears to let him go look for something like a ring or spices for a roast chicken. If you're going to watch The Shift, make sure you see it for free, streaming. If you are a devout Christian and love deeply religious movies, The Shift will most likely appeal to you, despite the fact that the story takes a sudden nosedive and doesn't stop until the movie is finished. The best way to articulate my feelings towards this movie is simply leave the F out of the title. I did a few times by accident and thought that was a great way to describe this movie. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving The Shift a score of 4, and that might be a little too high. If you like what you heard, I thank you for watching and invite you to subscribe and join the Poprageous family. And if you didn't like what you heard, I thank you all the same, and we'll see you in our next video.